quiet future. Reading 1 continued. And the flaming sword licks my back, reminding me Eden was true, and with our choice we can't go back. But God is love, and I must trust He has a way to bring us back. For without Him I found I just wander astray across this plain, blowing in the wind like the dust, in pursuit of dust, all in vain. Now we walk, dust-ridden and dry, waiting for the sweet, quenching rain of our Father whom we made cry. Part 2. O my Lord, how troubled we are! The darkness descends from the sky, tentacles creeping from the star that fell across this paucity. God, I see and hear wide and far that this earth has no scarcity of riches to help us sustain, but there is such rapacity for this bounty and no refrain from getting whatever I want. This, your earth, is held with disdain. I see all the great cities flaunt their brightly colored avarice, as your lush, tender earth wanes gaunt, and it suffers with jaundice as we plunder your abundant gift. I see each metropolis rise high from the ground, resplendent with endless creativity. Each one is interdependent to sustain their activity on each other and on the good you made. Yet their proclivity is for endless growth, and it would behoove us to just acknowledge you. Yet our ways have ever stood as a high fence before the ledge, keeping us from walking over. Before the fence we grow a hedge, to show others that we never peek through cracks to the other side, where on the ledge grows the clover. But it's known the hedges provide something more than adornment of well-trimmed hedges that help hide this high and mighty fence, intent on halting any lunatic who is caught in an entrancement, wild-eyed, raving, mentally sick, from trespassing past this border. Yes, the hedge, lushly green and thick, trimmed and shaped in perfect order, festooned with knick-knacks and flowers, gives no sign of the disorder, which, before this fence that towers from the ground and over the cliff, looming down upon all, cowers in the fence's shadows, as if it should be sorry that it exists. And so it hides, shaking and stiff, from the looming fence that insists on keeping everyone safe from what it cannot see. It's dumb, it doesn't care, has no concern, and at the ledge it bites its thumb, because the fence will never learn what madness lies in that ravine, so it lets the crazy ones burn in the hedge's shadows unseen. And there they pace to and fro, caught in the world that's in between the fence and hedge. They have been taught where to stay and ever remain. They're never given any thought, for to both sides they are a stain upon the greatness that was built, and all they cause is grief and pain, as they try to unload their guilt on the perfection of hedgerows, and the fence so straight without tilt. But as they hide, their madness grows beneath the dark canopy, and they run in circles on their toes, beating a path upon the land. At times they tire, but they still go wanting for a staying hand, hoping for someone with whom to play. So life goes on outside the same. The hedges grow from day to day, as the outsiders play the game of life, growing up in their town, leading a life that's rather tame, living off what's been handed down, an enormous inheritance that's in life worn as a nightgown in a dreaming somnambulance. It covers you up, keeps you warm, but it only is seen at a glance, because your eyes close and dreams swarm your mind, leading you to and fro without a beacon in the storm, whose driving winds and rains blow your vessel that left the mother ship so many ages ago to a strange land on the other side of the never-ending sea. There you find you're in another world where you find it hard to see straight, as if it were all a dream. The people claim to be free, and to them it doesn't even seem the least bit strange that they are tied by 7 strings that brightly gleam in the bright flashing lights that guide them as a moth to the full moon. It's plain to see they don't hide, that they march to their own tune, wandering down dark alleyways, not wanting to be the buffoon who with the others never plays. Here everyone beats their own drum, without a rhythm that obeys a law of what's good and wholesome. To do what thou wilt is the whole of their law in this vast kingdom. They seem inured to what the soul cries against, listening instead to the never-ending black hole of desire that sleeps in the bed of pleasure for the sake of it. It seems that excess wealth has led the rich young man from what is writ upon his heart to the pursuit of whatever happens to hit him as a fancy he can suit. So many choices one can pursue makes it hard not to loot the shops lining the avenue. And it seems there's no one to guard the storefronts, and it looks like you are the last one to still regard the lost ways of the old downtown, so quickly buried like a shard of soda glass that's been washed down river into a sandy lake, no longer resting on the crown of the fountain that used to make sodas on a hot afternoon, where one could go to take a break and maybe listen to a tune while Mom was at home making lunch, hoping that Dad would come home soon, as he's trying to make the crunch to roll the steel or bale the hay, so that he doesn't get the punch that would bring his family dismay. Like those who are trampled underfoot, never receiving equal pay, even though they're covered in soot. The soot that covers all the land, since before Indians were put out into the shadows to stand, where buffalo no longer play, in prairies turned into sand, and blowing dust like the far-away desert across the sea, where cargo ships could find a bay to dock. There they did pay a fee to buy a people that were stole from their loved land and family. They were thrown into a dark hole for centuries, but from the pit emerged the children with the soul from ancestors that did not quit. And in this world found to be new, distant thunder and lightning-lit skies are bringing a fresh wind through a country still catching its breath after it explosively grew, and it now is dealing with death, coursing through her still mighty veins like heroin, cocaine, or meth. Just one of the illicit stains upon the flag that still flies strong in the wind with the amber grains, as America sings her song. But our kids are dragged by their feet into a basement down a long flight of rock-hewn stairs, where they meet the dealers of death and disease, who are all too eager to greet broken souls, just looking to ease the pain of life not going right. Of those who wanted a small tease, enough to party for the night, from which many can never wake to open their eyes to the light that's shining forth from every stake that pierced the body of our Lord, Savior, and King, for the sake of ones just as those whose hour has come and gone, like a faint breeze that once carried a sweet flower, fragrance of blossomed apple trees. But now it brings a stench that gags, and drops one upon their knees. Their eyes tear and their smile sags, for that blossom breeze, once so sweet, now blows over old garbage bags stuffed with diapers and rotting meat. So many evils can be seen. With a simple click they can greet one's soul. Images of obscene acts at which people merely laugh, for entertainment crude and mean in spirit. It splits one in half, blinds the soul, and wisps one to the black hordes of the devil's staff, who seek to destroy what is true and good, just and right. They care not for man's dignity, for me or you, so they laugh at the pimp and whore, so funny in their costumes, being cool in front of the door, seducing people to their rooms, so eager to taste of that fruit. A young virgin quickly exhumes the serpent lying at the root of this choice. He feels he must hide. He pays this woman much needed loot, and with the first touch he has died, bringing this woman, once a child who laughed, loved, and cried, a bit further into the wild land of the shadows, with the lost souls where suffering is not mild, where the young are captured and tossed by evil predators who seek out children to sell at a black cost, along the world-wide black route with hidden markets everywhere, where none can hear these babies shout as they're taken into the lair of those who've chosen to pervert their desires, and those who dare seek out the weak ones they can hurt in the shadows where men can't see. They know they slither on the dirt. Their evil has an allergy to the light, keeping them away from the love that can set them free. And so in the dark they will stay, dragging the weak back to their cave, where the evil is free to play. For there they don't have to behave. There the one God does not exist. They've buried him deep in a grave, but they forget that he does persist, omnipotent, omnipresent. But even so, they can't resist, for they are not independent. They are slaves of the wicked way that all humankind underwent when our parents were led astray to disobey with their own choice, and it continues to this day. Every time that we give a voice to desires that are sinful, we lose a minute to rejoice in all things good and wonderful that we don't feel guilty to view, because love is more powerful than the hatred that seeks to skew the truth which remains transparent, even if only to a few. Just as it is quite apparent, evil deeds need to hide from sight, for evil deserves punishment. And so the good fight, to stop the evil people do, and pray they may become contrite of heart before their time is through. For though they be our enemies, Jesus Christ said to love them too, and he said it not with a please. It comes from his greatest command, the one that can help put at ease your fears, worries, burning lusts, and fill your heart with loving trust and desire for the demand God places on you that you must fulfill, so that you're in accord with his will that is good and just. There is no soul that can afford the cost that was paid through the cross, for that is where Jesus Christ poured the very love of God we toss off into the past, where we lose that moment and suffer a loss that won't come back because we choose to buy those drugs or watch that porn or drink way too much of that booze or not allow life to be born into a world that, yes, is hard and cruel and so full of scorn, but it's not we who hold the card that is to determine the fate of the very ones we must guard in the precious womb where they wait. So innocent and unaware, to pass through the very first gate into the light where they can dare this world of pleasure and pain, of struggling to love and care, of the chance to wash clean the stain of sin, to sense and feel and grow, to be held in love or disdain, to feel a river's water flow across your body through your toes, to let them have the chance to know that in certain lands the sky snows, and in these lands these trees will change their leaf color, then the wind blows them all around, then something strange happens. Humans there take time out of their day and they rearrange these leaves into piles, and then shout as they jump into these soft piles, causing them to scatter about, and this is done across the miles. The smell of leaves, their crunching sound, this playing in the leaves brings smiles to people falling on the ground, regardless of color or creed. We're just mammals that play around because it's something we all need, and it's something we all need, and it's something so much better than the tunnel vision of greed, the wide-eyed creep that will enter your thoughts, lending a hand to guide through the dark only to fetter your ankles and neck and arms inside a grim chamber, dank and silent, where all your thoughts are magnified, spinning around without relent, like a seven-wheel slot machine, flashing and yelling when you're spent, dizzy, nauseous, and feeling green, and you haven't slept for a week. There a shadow, silent and mean, betrays the figure of a freak, lurking just outside of your cell, of whose face you can't catch a peek. It's as terrifying as hell in this cell, night perpetual, the only sound your silent yell at the freak shadow's ritual, crawl back and forth across the floor. And you know it's eventual that it will make it to the door, as it grows shorter, more defined, as time ticks on through the days, or is it years? Nothing to remind of how long it's been since you were dragged in, chained up, and left behind. Your memories become a blur. You know that you had a wife, but you don't really remember her. The door to that memory's shut. Your children, family, and friends, all of these ties, they have been cut. Instead of them, you choose the ends, wanting to do it all your way. But here you cannot make amends. There is no one for you to sway. You're cold, tired, going insane. That shadow will not go away. Waxing closer, it does not wane. Things are now getting serious. Your heart's driving the throbbing veins in your brain that's delirious. Flashing colors and screaming names, pulsing images of heinous crimes that spiraled out from the games, reveled in without the remorse that brings the cooling tide which tames the spitting mad, red-eyed horse, never sharing its handler's care, helping to halt its current course and calm it down enough to bear something of which it can be proud. Regret, now it can only stare at the shadow, silent but loud. There is nowhere you can escape. You can't melt away in a crowd as the shadow threatens to drape you with its black nothingness, enveloping you within its cape, bringing unwelcomed drowsiness when it's crucial to be awake. This figure of bleak emptiness is so real now, it's not a fake. My brain is under the undue stress, but I know there is no mistake. This figure is about to press itself deeply within my soul and join me with its emptiness. This mute shadow of a shadow, I see it now, it cannot speak nor make any sound. It has no mouth to house, tongue or teeth, nor cheek to pinch, no wrinkles, those lovely fingerprints of life. So I shriek at the dark creature before me, shaking my arms, rattling my chains. But it's mocking my every move, this freak shade, how it disdains me, comes no closer than the wall, eats me not nor attacks, just feigns to be me, nothing more, that's all. Now you sit, the shadow is here, it's nothing more than a pall. It can't harm you, that much is clear, so you reach out, give it a touch, and in a sinking rush comes fear. Your hand reaching out stops with such suddenness it gives you a shock. It's not the chains, they still have much slack. There's nothing else that can block your hesitant attempt to reach out and touch. But again you knock, something hard and smooth. You can't breach this barrier, but then you see your hands have met. And again you shriek, it's glass you touch. How can it be? You touch your face, there's nothing there. Again you reach desperately in this dark and forbidding lair. Again you're stopped, and so you pound upon this wall at which you stare, yelling, but you hear not a sound in this dungeon dreadful and dim. So he collapses on the ground before the mirror, dark and grim, his shadow as his only friend. All he ever wanted was him to get every one to bend to his will, without a concern for others. Alas, at the end, it was too late for him to learn that love can save him from the hell that awaits the final wrong turn. Whereupon the deep tolling bell brings him to this hideous place, where he was once offered to sell his soul. End of reading Quiet Future, Part 1.